This is a code walkthrough for the example file LoopingWhileFileEcho.java. We probably went through the details of this in the lecture video, but now we're going to get a chance to single step through this and look at this in a little more detail. So just as a recap, in general terms what this file does is it uses two separate scanners and a while loop to read in text data from a file. So here is the text file that we're going to try to read from, just these 5 simple lines. And this example adds a few new capabilities. For starters, we've got 2 separate scanners existing alongside each other. One of them to prompt for a file name, the other one to associate that file with an input stream that we can read in using this while loop. So as some preliminaries, up here we've got the usual import of scanner. We're making use of the file class now, so we have to import it using java.io.file. And we've also got this other import for java.io.io exception. Without going into too many details, it turns out that when we use the file class, there is the possibility of an exception being generated or thrown. And we need to either handle that with some exception handling, or at a very minimum acknowledge that possibility. So notice that at the end of the standard main method interface, we've got this throws IO exception added. So because of that, we also have to add this import of IO exception. So let me demonstrate something. Let's compile this, and it compiles just fine. But notice what happens if I take this out. We'll save it, try to recompile it, and notice that we'll get a compilation error. An unreported exception, file not found exception, must be caught or declared to be thrown. That will happen if we don't have this at the beginning of our, or at the end rather, of our main method interface. So we'll just leave it in there without any further comment for now. So as usual, let's start by setting a breakpoint on main, and we'll begin single stepping through this with a debugger. So we can look at this line by line. We're setting up a couple of strings for the file name that we prompt for and the text line that we're going to read in. We're initializing a counter of the number of lines to 0. And let's start moving ahead here. So here we're setting up our first scanner in the usual way. We're going to call it command input, and we're going to use it to prompt the user to enter a file name in this next line. So here we're using this scanner object right here. So we said it was in a file called zzz.txt, so we'll enter that, and that's our file name. And then we're going to turn around and use this file name to set up a file object called inFile, and that's why we had to import file up here. So we'll set up that file object, and then we're going to turn around and use that file object to set up, or initialize rather, a second scanner called file input. So this first scanner is called command input, and it's associated with command line input. But the second scanner called file input is associated with whatever file we prompted the user for. Once we have this second scanner on hand, reading data using it is no different than we're already used to. The point is that we've got 2 scanners existing side by side in the same file here. So we'll continue stepping on, and we're acknowledging that we're reading from that text file that we saw. And now we're incorporating the hasNext method of scanner upon that second scanner, the one associated with the file. And this is our loop continuation condition. We're asking ourselves, is there still data to be read here? Yes or no? Well, of course there's still several lines to be read, so the answer is true, and we enter our loop. And then we use our scanner in the usual way to read one string. So we're reading in the entire contents of the first line of the file as one single string called text. And just to prove that, let me do something here. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so that we can see the data that we're trying to read in at the same time. So we read in the first line, increment the count, and we'll just echo it back out. And then we loop back around to the top of the loop and ask ourselves the same question. Is there still file data to be read, yes or no? Well, we're only on line 2, so yes, there's more to be read. So again, we read it in, increment the count, print it out. This should be line 3. This should be line 4. This should be line 5. And that's everything we've got. Now we're out of data, so when we ask this has next question, the answer is false. So we terminate our while looping and we print a conclusion message that we've read in 5 lines. And notice that these lines that we read in are exactly these. So to continue on with this experiment, let's finish stepping through this with the debugger. Let's take the breakpoint off and let's resize this window a little bit so that we can see both the JGrasp and the text that we want to read. And let's go ahead and free run this in real time to show you what this is supposed to look like, and we're getting the same result. Finally, to demonstrate that we really are reading this, let's change this file up. Let's add some more lines to it, and I'm just putting in some random garbage here, but I'll go ahead and save this, and let's repeat this with a different file. Notice that we haven't done anything to change the code. We've already compiled it. We haven't made any changes to it. All we're doing is executing it one more time with a different file. Same file name, but different content in the file. So this time we ought to be reading in, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lines. Better make it one more for luck. Save that. So 14 lines. And we have indeed read in 14 lines. So just to sum up, this is how we can use scanner, multiple scanners actually, together with a while loop and the has next method to peek ahead to see if there's more data to be read, to read in any arbitrary amount of text from a text file. We may come back to this capability later in the semester for another program, so make sure that this is kind of clear to you. Okay, that's it for now.